But Zach Orr truly led the charge. I'm a witness to it, and I've been wanting to say this because, dude, is the truth.
So Ravens flock, Chuck Smith is letting it be known that he wants to ride for his guy, Zach Orr. He answered questions earlier today in the midst of OTAs. He talked to the media, and when he was talking to the media, he ended up going on a very passionate speech talking about how he feels Zach Orr deserves all the credit for turning the defense around last year, even though he feels like the media was giving credit to other people who may have came in later in the season. And he also went as far as to say he believes that Zach Orr is going to be one of the best defensive coordinators in football. And also, he said that Zach Orr is the truth. Now, is Zach Orr the truth? Only time will tell. But as far as the defensive turnaround, the 2024 Ravens defensive turnaround, to me, is a very tricky thing to have an opinion on or analyze as a fan, just because of the fact that, as we all know, we went from having the worst pass defense in football for the majority of the season, and it didn't turn around until like somewhere around week 11, week 12, towards the latter half of the season. And on one hand, it is still impressive that they were able to get a turnaround going at some point in the season. However, when you look at our schedule towards the end of the season, when we really started to turn things around, that was the easier part of our schedule. We played teams like the Giants, who don't even have a quarterback. Now, to be fair, we played bad teams early in the season and still got cooked, so it is what it is. But we played bad teams like the Giants in the later half of the year. We played the Browns, who last year had no quarterback and were in a bad situation. We played the Texans, who, even though the Texans are a solid team, they were completely destroyed with injuries last year. Like, pretty much all their wide receivers were gone, really, outside of like Nico Collins. And then, even then, if I'm not mistaken, Nico Collins got hurt in the earlier part of the year. So, but either way, we did turn it around. I just don't know how much of that turnaround I should trust, because of the fact that we played the easier part of our schedule when the turnaround coincidentally started to take place. We also, to be fair, we had a good run defense all year long, but at the same time, our run defense in the early part of the year, part of the reason it was so good is because, number one, we played teams that didn't have much of a running attack. Teams like the Dallas Cowboys and the Las Vegas Raiders and the Cincinnati Bengals. But then on top of that, these teams in the earlier part of the year, they really had no need to run the ball against us because they were throwing the ball so effectively against us. Like, for the beginning part of the season, we had like either the 31st or the 32nd ranked pass defense in all of football. Like, it didn't matter if you were an elite quarterback like Joe Burrow. It didn't matter if you were an above average quarterback like Dak Prescott. It didn't matter if you were a garbage quarterback like Gardner Minshew. When we were playing these teams in the early part of the year, everybody was cooking us. Like, everybody was throwing for like 1,000,000 yards against us. Like, it felt like we couldn't stop anybody, really. And of course, we blame specific people like Marcus Williams and Brandon Stevens, right? Because both of them did not have their best seasons. But at the same time, I don't know if it's the player's fault or if it's Zach Orr's fault or if it's somewhere in the middle where they just didn't see eye to eye on Zach Orr's scheme, and that kind of caused them to not put their best effort forward. Regardless of what happened, either way, it did happen. And the thing about, to go back to our running game, even the reason I was so uneasy about how our running game performed last year was when we did play teams that did have very serious running attacks like Philadelphia, we weren't shutting them down the way we shut down some of those other teams earlier in the season that didn't run. So that's the thing that kind of makes me feel like I just couldn't really trust a lot of what was on paper when it came to this Ravens defense. It didn't feel as lights out as it was in 2023, which is to be expected. We switched coordinators, we lost certain players and we gained other players, so you can't expect to have an extremely good defense every single year, even though it should have still been better than what it was. But at the same time, I didn't want to call out Zach Orr too much during the season, because in the back of my mind, I kept thinking about the fact that he was a rookie defensive coordinator. And just like Mike McDonald in the early part of his journey as a DC, he also struggled. And we all know that eventually Mike McDonald did turn it around. So we'll see if Zach Orr is able to have that similar sort of trajectory that Mike McDonald had. It would be great if he did. I don't know if he will, but again, time will tell. Zach Orr is a person that's easy to root for, obviously, because of the fact that we've all seen his story where he played for the Ravens. He even worked his way up to getting to Pro Bowl status at one point, but unfortunately, due to health reasons, his career was cut short. He worked his way back up to where now he's calling plays. He's the defensive coordinator for this team. And I hope he does do well. I hope he does come out next year and prove Chuck Smith right. Because even though Chuck Smith is giving him this major cosign, only time will tell if this is a legitimate cosign or if this is a cosign that's based in what Chuck is projecting Zach is about to be, or if it's just Chuck blowing smoke. We don't know. Time will tell. One thing I do know is that Zach Orr is going to have a lot more weapons at his disposal next year. As we all know, they drafted Malachi Starks, who, even though we're dealing with issues in the safety room because Bo Bragg got injured recently, Ardarius Washington he tore his Achilles, so he probably will be done for the season. There's a slight chance he may try to make a miraculous comeback, but he's most likely done. But still, you still got Kyle Hamilton, and we just drafted Malachi Starks. So that combined with hopefully Sanusi Kane being able to take advantage of the opportunity and step up, or maybe they do in fact move Jalen Armour-Davis to the safety spot and it works out. Either way, with the addition of young talent like Malachi Starks and also Mike Green, who I think is going to be a monster, even if he doesn't put up double-digit sacks, I think Mike Green is I think he's gonna quickly make a name for himself on the Ravens defense, and you'll probably see a lot of jerseys with the number 45 by next year. But let me know what your thoughts are. Do you think that Chuck Smith is just blowing smoke to try to help Zach Orr build up his confidence, or do you think that Zach Orr is on the brink of becoming the next great DC in the NFL?